After success with the Partridge Family, David Cassidy became a major figure among 1970s teenagers. As a result, it was never a problem for him to meet attractive women who wanted to be with him. He was such a sensation that not even his co-star, Susan Dey, could take her eyes off of him. However, things did not go well when Dey revealed her emotions. Her feelings were rejected, and their friendship eventually ended. Join FactsVerse as we discover why David Cassidy regretted his one-night stand with Susan Dey. Susan Dey and David Cassidy starred as siblings Laurie and Keith Partridge in the famous 1970 show The Partridge Family, an American musical sitcom. Dey was a stunning brunette who was the object of many young men's attention. Her co-star, David Cassidy, was the ultimate teen heartthrob for thousands of teenage girls across the U.S. Posters of him usually decorated the walls of many teenage girls who dreamed of one day meeting him, or better yet, going on a date with him. Of course, it didn't hurt his case that he was a talented and good-looking singer. Despite playing siblings on screen, Dey harbored an intense crush on her co-star, which he most certainly did not share. Over the course of the show's run, Dey and Cassidy developed a strong friendship. Despite their age difference, Cassidy treated Dey like a sister. However, not everyone on the set of The Partridge Family ignored Dey's obvious crush on Cassidy. Mom Shirley Partridge, played by Shirley Jones, noticed Susan had a massive crush on David. Nonetheless, she found it very disturbing. She repeatedly advised Susan not to get too attached to her on-screen brother. The truth was, Shirley Jones knew Cassidy's lackadaisical approach to controlling his emotions and didn't want Dey to suffer any emotional upheaval. Dey, on the other hand, wasn't persuaded by the talks because her unrelenting feelings for Cassidy consumed her. Since her advice to Dey wasn't helping the situation, Shirley tipped David off about Dey's behavior towards him. Clueless about what Shirley meant, Cassidy extended an invitation to her for dinner following the Partridge family's final wrap party. After dinner, he drove her to his alma mater, where they stayed for 3 hours and continued their conversation. He acknowledged he went to all that trouble to maintain their friendship, particularly because the show's conclusion meant they would go their separate ways. At some point during their conversation, she went into great detail about how difficult it had been for her to hold back from declaring her love for him. She also expressed her nervousness about their future together. At the conclusion of the conversation, Cassidy promised he would take Dey to Rancho California, the place he used to visit when he needed some time alone. He was taken aback when he found out how she felt about him. Knowing that the best he could be for her was a best friend, he treasured her affection and friendship. But having heard Dey's confession, Cassidy found himself at a crossroads. According to Cassidy, Dey signaled her interest in having sexual relations with him while they were at the ranch. They kissed after chatting and watching TV, and she eventually excused herself to use the restroom. Cassidy started reassessing his feelings towards Dey as they were getting ready for bed. As he felt uneasy about the whole situation, Cassidy concluded Dey lacked the seductive allure he had previously found in other women. Though he knew she would still hold it against him if they never had sexual relations, he knew doing so would destroy their friendship. But Cassidy was afraid of hurting her feelings if he rejected her, so he felt he was in a damned if you do, damned if you don't situation. They made out first thing in the morning, but the experience was forgettable because Cassidy realized midway through their intimacy that it wasn't what he'd been seeking. Unfortunately, she picked up on his nervous energy as well, so their intimacy was brief, fruitless, and ultimately disappointing. The encounter altered their relationship, just as Cassidy had anticipated. For a number of years, they maintained a steady stream of conversation, but eventually drifted apart. Despite Dey's best efforts, she was unable to start a romantic relationship with Cassidy. Nevertheless, they maintained their friendly relationship and moved on with their lives. They made a joint television appearance to present the Viewer's Choice Award at the 1990 MTV Video Music Awards. Although it was all planned out ahead of time, the back-and-forth banter between them still managed to put a smile on America's face. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. In his 1994 memoir, Come On Get Happy, Fear and Loathing on the Partridge Family Bus, Cassidy discussed a lot about his personal life. He talked about his drug use, sexual encounters with other celebrities, and a complicated relationship with his famous father, Jack Cassidy. Additionally, he disclosed some sensitive information about his close relationship with Dey. He wrote in his book that Dey represented the sister figure he lacked in his life, and they often discussed the various women he had slept with. He also added that since he considered her a sister and his closest female friend, he had no idea his remarks about other women would be hurtful to her. Cassidy's openness about his book, about his relationship with Dey, and his disappointment that she wasn't more provocative, did nothing to improve their friendship. Cassidy's confession of their brief fling in his autobiography angered Dey greatly. She felt betrayed because she had no intention of ever disclosing that information to the public. Dey remarked that while it was a tremendous, terrible violation, it wouldn't have any bearing on their relationship because they no longer had one. Cassidy tried to make amends by writing her a letter of reconciliation, but she didn't reply. He disclosed that Dey had not kept in touch with her fellow Partridge Family cast members, and she had declined an interview with VH1 for a documentary the network was making about the show. Unfortunately, we will never know if Dey and Cassidy were able to put their differences behind them before he passed away November 21, 2017. As he struggled with alcoholism, drug addiction, financial ruin, and dementia in his later years, he lived a life that was more miserable than anyone could have imagined. Cassidy had embarked on a varied and exciting entertainment career that saw him perform on Broadway, television, and as a touring musician. But like many other successful entertainers, he struggled with issues such as troubled relationships with family members, divorce, alcoholism, drug addiction, and physical illness. Even after his passing, it became clear he may have lied about his dementia diagnosis to cover up a dangerous relapse with alcohol. His struggle with alcoholism was a frequent topic of news coverage in the years leading up to his dementia claim. As reported by People magazine, he was arrested for drunk driving 3 times between 2010 and 2014. Cassidy, who had been in and out of rehab for alcoholism, admitted he was an alcoholic shortly after his 3rd DUI arrest. He told People in February 2017 he'd been fighting dementia for the majority of his final years to explain away his relapse with alcohol. His story was bolstered by the fact that his maternal grandfather and mother also had the disease, making him genetically predisposed. It wasn't until several months after his death that the makers of an A&E documentary about him revealed how deceiving his dementia diagnosis may have been. In a preview clip for the film, Cassidy could be heard discussing the cause of his memory loss as a result of liver disease. He also claimed doctors assured him there was no evidence to suggest he had dementia, so his health complications were an inevitable consequence of his drinking. His marriage to his 3rd wife was the longest and most heart-wrenching of his life. In 1991, he tied the knot with Sue Schifrin Cassidy. After over 20 years together, their marriage ended in 2015 after an unpleasant and private settlement that led to Cassidy filing for bankruptcy. He also ended up auctioning his South Florida mansion. His bankruptcy filing in 2015 cited assets and debts totaling up to $10 million. According to reports, the former teen idol owed $310,000 to American Express, $21,000 to Wells Fargo, $17,000 to Citibank, and $102,000 to a Florida attorney. However, in a later interview with People in 2017, Cassidy played down the severity of his financial situation, saying the financial part is not an issue. But after his death, debt collectors started knocking on the door. The same law firm that said he owed it money before his bankruptcy was making demands for payment. There was also the case of another lawyer, Damaso Saavedra, who claimed to be owed $19,000 by Cassidy. Surprisingly, both allegations were refuted by a representative of Cassidy's estate. In his will, Cassidy left his son, Bo Cassidy, everything he owned, which was valued at about $150,000. Now it's time to hear from you. What's your favorite memory of David Cassidy? What about of Susan Dey? Let us know in the comments section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to FactsVerse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.